When control tightens, Theo's grip on Todd turns darker than ever in Coronation Street. In the wake of Billy Mayhew's devastating death, Coronation Street plunges viewers into one of its darkest and most emotionally harrowing chapters yet. For Todd Grimshaw, grief is no longer a private wound. It is a weapon being used against him by the very person who claims to love him. As portrayed by Gareth Pierce, Todd is left profoundly isolated, stripped not only of his partner but of his last lifeline, as Theo Silverton's coercive control escalates into ever more insidious territory. What unfolds is not merely a story of loss, but a chilling examination of how abuse can survive tragedy, disguise itself as devotion, and tighten its grip when a victim is at their most vulnerable. A cry for help that came too late. The tragedy was set in motion at what should have been a joyful occasion, Debbie Webster's wedding. Amid the celebration, Todd made a desperate and quietly courageous decision. After enduring months of emotional and physical abuse at the hands of Theo, he finally reached out to Billy for help. Billy, played by Daniel Brocklebank, had noticed the bruises on Todd's body, silent evidence of violence Todd had tried to hide. The realization was immediate and devastating. Billy urged Todd to leave with him, to escape before Theo could tighten his control any further. For a fleeting moment, hope flickered. Todd and Billy climbed into a minibus alongside other wedding guests, ready to leave the venue and, symbolically, Theo behind. But that fragile chance at freedom was cruelly snatched away. Theo appeared just in time, inserting himself back into Todd's orbit before the engine could even cool. Moments later, disaster struck, a killer in plain sight. The minibus was involved in a horrific pile-up, one of Coronation Street's most shocking sequences in recent memory. As chaos unfolded, passengers scrambled to escape. Flames ignited, smoke filled the air. Billy, however, was trapped. Summoning extraordinary strength, he managed to free himself from the wreckage. It seemed, briefly, that he might survive. But then Theo appeared. In a moment that redefined the character forever, Theo reattached Billy's seatbelt, effectively sealing his fate. Seconds later, the explosion claimed Billy's life. To the outside world, Theo emerged as a hero, someone who had tried, desperately and selflessly, to save Billy. But viewers were left with the horrifying truth: Theo Silverton is a killer. And Todd knows it. Grief is a tool of manipulation. In the days that followed, Todd's grief was raw and consuming. Billy had been his moral anchor, his voice of reason, his final chance at escape. Losing him was not just bereavement, it was annihilation. Theo, meanwhile, adopted a new mask. To friends and neighbors, he played the role of the devoted boyfriend, attentive, gentle, endlessly supportive. But behind closed doors, the abuse continued, evolving in form but not in intent. Theo seized every opportunity to reframe the tragedy, subtly but relentlessly shifting the blame onto Todd. If Todd hadn't wanted to leave the wedding early, Theo reminded him, they wouldn't have been on the road. They wouldn't have been in the crash. Billy would still be alive. It was classic coercive control, gaslighting disguised as logic, cruelty dressed up as concern. Each remark chipped away at Todd's sense of self, deepening his guilt and reinforcing Theo's dominance. Grief, already unbearable, became something Todd felt responsible for. A funeral that becomes a weapon. The cruelty reached a new low at Billy's funeral. Determined to honor the man he loved, Todd volunteered to deliver the eulogy. He prepared his words carefully, pouring his heartbreak onto the page. But when the moment came to step forward, the weight of the loss proved overwhelming. Standing before a church filled with mourners, Todd faltered. The words caught in his throat. His grief was too raw, too public, too consuming, and that's when Theo stepped in. On the surface, it appeared compassionate, a partner rescuing Todd from a painful moment. But what followed was anything but kind. Theo's eulogy was meticulously crafted, laced with insinuations and emotional barbs aimed squarely at Todd. Without naming him outright, Theo made it clear where he believed responsibility lay. Billy's death, he implied, was the tragic consequence of decisions Todd had made. In a room full of people mourning a beloved figure, Todd was silently condemned, telling the truth about abuse. As the storyline unfolds, Coronation Street producer Kate Brooks has been clear about the intention behind it: realism above all else. "We wanted to play the truth of this story," she explained. "It's not something that's wrapped up after a couple of months. This is ongoing. Domestic abuse, particularly coercive control, rarely announces itself with dramatic gestures. It seeps into everyday life, distorting reality bit by bit." According to Brooks, keeping Todd and Theo front and center allows the show to explore that uncomfortable truth with the seriousness it demands. "This is about telling the story truthfully and realistically," she added. "And realism is precisely what makes the storyline so unsettling. Control without bruises." While physical violence has played a role in Theo's abuse, his true power lies elsewhere. We've already seen him dictate who Todd can see and speak to, gradually isolating him from friends and support networks. He's taken control of Todd's diet and fitness, presenting his behavior as concern for Todd's well-being. A tracker monitors Todd's movements and activity levels, an invasion of privacy framed as encouragement. Every step Todd takes is observed, measured, and judged. In the aftermath of Billy's funeral, Theo extends that control even further. Financial abuse, the next frontier. When Theo opens Todd's post and discovers a final demand from a credit card company, Todd is humiliated. He insists it's under control, a temporary issue he can manage himself. Theo refuses to let it go. Positioning himself as responsible and supportive, he insists Todd cut up the credit card immediately. From now on, Theo declares, Todd will only use cash. On the surface, it sounds sensible, protective even. But in reality, it is financial abuse, another method of stripping Todd of independence, autonomy, and choice. By controlling Todd's access to money, Theo tightens his grip on every aspect of his life. Escape becomes not just emotionally difficult, but practically impossible. A difficult story, and an essential one. It's a hard watch at times, I'm not going to lie, Kate Brooks admitted. And she's right, this is not a storyline designed for comfort. It is unsettling, painful, and deliberately slow-burning. But its power lies in that discomfort. By refusing to rush resolution or soften the reality, Coronation Street forces viewers to confront the true nature of coercive control, how it persists, how it adapts, and how it thrives in silence. Most importantly, it shines a light on a form of abuse that often goes unnoticed, unchallenged, and misunderstood. For Todd Grimshaw, the nightmare is far from over. Theo's control is tightening, his manipulation growing more sophisticated by the day. And as viewers, we are left watching, hoping, and fearing, because this story feels uncomfortably real.